All right, somebody tell me how you went about solving this problem. What did you do? You want to get the x squared by itself?
No, you want to
No,
subtract
no.
3.
That's when you don't have this term. That's when you do that. What did you say?
Subtract
You moved the
3.
3 over.
Move the 3 over.
So,
Am I doing it right?
no.
What did I do wrong?
You added 3. You're supposed to
Okay.
subtract 3.
That's a mistake I see a lot of you guys do. You bring the 3 over and you leave the sign the same. Change the sign. Okay, then what? What do you do? You've got to develop a plan. Which method do you want to do? You know what, this one's back.
The
I keep making them up and I'm.
quadratic formula.
Oh, quadratic formula. Okay, I like that.
It's gonna be
So, I think this one is factorable, but what's the A value?
2.
A is 2. What's
B
B?
is negative 5.
Uh-huh. And what's C?
Negative 3.
Okay, so can someone recite the quadratic formula?
Negative b
Uh-huh.
plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Thank you very much, Maya.
AC.
She said anybody.
I know.
All over 2A. A lot of people just put 2A underneath the square root stuff. It's the whole thing. All right,
Oh,
so
I
now,
saw.
little by little, let's start putting stuff in. What is the B value? It's negative 5, so what's the opposite of B? 5. Okay, the next thing, what did you do?
Negative 5
What number
squared.
did you put right here?
Negative 5
Negative 5. And then what do you do to it?
square root.
Square it. What number did you get here? Let's square it.
25.
25. Did anyone write negative 25? If you use your calculator and do negative, if you type this in your calculator, you're gonna get the wrong answer. You have to put that in parentheses. Be careful. So that's a first mistake I see a lot. Minus 4 times 2 times negative 3. All over 2 times 2, can I just write 4? There's some things I can do. Okay.
2 times 2.
2 times 2. Okay, next, what do you do? Here's another place where I see common mistakes. Right here. What did you get?
24.
Huh?
24.
Is it plus 24 or minus 24?
Minus.
24.
Why?
Because it's 2 negatives.
It's
Two
a negative
negatives,
four
so
and a
multiply them
negative 6.
correctly, please.
I'm really bad.
This is a common mistake right here. All right, then what do you do?
And you add 25.
And what do you get? And what is the square root of 49? Now, are you gonna leave your answer like that?
No.
Say no.
No?
No.
So, you're gonna do 5 plus 7, which is 12, I can do that in my head. What's 12 divided by 4?
3
Is 3. And 5 minus 7 is negative 2 over 4 is negative 1.
Negative 1.
Good job.
Good job.
Good job.
So now, what this tells me is this was factorable. It was factorable. I could have factored it. All right, how about the next one? Let's do a different method. Let's complete the square. How do you complete the square on this one? Step 1. Giving you a hint. Huh?
I don't see that.
Is it B?
Divide everything by negative 4. Divide everything by negative 4. Why?
So it's B1.
You want a 1 in front of x squared. So tell me what your next line is. X squared
Plus.
plus
Oh,
4x minus 2 equals 0. Now this one I know is not factorable. It's not. So what can I do now? Now why do I know when it's a good time to complete the square, use the quadratic formula? When I can get my middle term to be even, complete the square. It's quicker. It's easier than the quadratic formula, believe it or not. It's easier. You just gotta get a lot of practice with it. So what do I do now with this negative 2? Move it. Trying to help you guys. Move it. Make it a positive 2. Now this is how you complete the square. You take what of this number? Half of it. Cut it in half. What do you get? Half of 4 is?
2.
And square that number. Now you got, not because that's a 4, it's because you took half of that number and squared it.
If that was a 6, then it could be 9.
Right. If this were a 6, half of 6 is 3 squared is 9. If it were a 10, you take half of it and square, you get 25. Can I just put a 4 there and walk away?
No.
What do I have to do?
Just put it
Subtract.
You have to put a 4 on this side too. You keep your equation balanced. Now, when you took half of 4, what did you get?
2.
What'd you get?
2.
That number is gonna always be this number right here when you factor it. What's 4 and 2? 6. Now what?
I use square.
Square root. You got 2 of these, so you take the square root. X plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 6, and then what?
Subtract 2.
Okay, what are these? These are exact answers. What if I were going to graph this and I wanted to see where it hits the x-axis? I would do negative 2 plus root 6, which, what is, let's clear my calculator. 2 plus the square root of 6 is about 4.45. And where is 2 minus the square root of 6 is about negative 0.45. So I know here's negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know my graph is going to cross here, about here and here. And it's going up, oh no, I'm sorry, it's going down. Because it's going to be going, it's going to do something like this. Okay? So you took a test and we didn't concentrate on these kinds of answers. We just looked at the vertex, if it's up or down. We looked at the axis of symmetry. We looked at the y-intercept. We didn't spend a lot of time on these types of x-intercepts when they're these are irrational numbers, okay? So that's what you're doing. Now, up till yesterday, we didn't look at these negative square roots, imaginary numbers. So yesterday we dealt with opening the door up to imaginary numbers. We didn't just stick with real numbers. So you had a homework assignment yesterday. Did anybody have any questions on the homework? Just super fast. You had to do, I put these all on YouTube. They were all there, how to add, subtract. Can I, yes?
29.
29. Let's do 29 together. 29, right there. What you have to do is you've got to get rid of the radical in the denominator, the I. So you have 4 minus 3I over negative 1 minus 4I. Now, what I like to do, it helps me, I put parentheses around everything. I will do this right away in this. Keep those together. Now I need the conjugate.
Negative 1 plus
Thank you. It's negative 1 plus 4I. How did you get that, Nick?
conjugate is just the opposite sign of the imaginary.
Okay, all you do is take this sign right here, keep everything else the same, and just change that sign. Now we have to carefully FOIL the numerator and the denominator. Let's FOIL this. So let's do 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. 4 times 4i is 16i. And then what's negative 3i times negative 1? 3i. And negative 3i times 4 is minus 12i squared. And I know some of you guys wanna, I always wanna go, oh, I know what to do next. But just hold on to that for a minute. Let's do the bottom. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. Negative 1 times 4i. Negative 4i times net is positive 4i. And this is going to give you negative 16i squared. Now let's start to simplify. Now let's simplify. What do you, look at the numerator, what does this become right here?
Oh,
Positive 12.
Positive 12, because I squared is negative 1 times negative 12 is 12. So this goes to 12. What do you do with that 12 and this? You add them up and you get 8, right? And can you add these two up?
Yeah.
What do you get?
19.
19i. Cool? All right, go to the bottom. Sammy, are you getting this? Okay. See this bottom right here? What does negative 16i squared go to?
16.
16. And what's 16 plus 1?
17.
17. What happens to these two?
They cancel.
They're gone. That's your answer. Done. If there's a number that goes into 8, 19, and 17 you can think of, besides 1, do it. 17's prime, so is 19. So you can't, there's nothing you can break up. Are you good now? Is there any other questions, real quick?
Oh, can you do 31 with just the 4 by itself on top?
Yeah,
Or you just
it says
do it?
4 over 2 minus 3i. What's the conjugate? It's 2 plus 3i. Over 2 plus 3i.
So like just distributing.
Yeah, you do 8 plus 12i. In the bottom, 2 times 2 is 4. The next 2 will cancel, and you get minus 9i squared, and this is gonna add, this is gonna be 9. So your answer is 8 plus 12i over 13. Done. Easy? Okay, as soon as I'm done with your notes for today, I will collect this assignment. You can turn it in before you leave. So let's talk about what we're doing. Here is the notes for today. Can you guys pass those around? Bless you.
I'm out
Here, pass these around. Okay. This is gonna be really easy.
So,
Does everyone have one?
should I keep it going or should
Yeah,
I
keep it
stop?
going.
Okay.
The first thing I'm gonna show you how to do is how to graph a complex number. And I bet this is gonna be new to you guys. How do you graph these? Well, do you remember yesterday when we talked about which is the real part and which is the imaginary part? The A value is the real part. Think of that as gonna be your x-axis, okay? And the y value, think of that as gonna be your imaginary. So, how do you think you plot 2 minus 3i? You're gonna go 2 on the x-axis, and then you're gonna go down 3 on your y-axis. So see this point right here? That is 2 minus 3i. That easy? Yeah. How about B? What's negative 1 plus 4i?
Go
Left 1 and up 4. And how about this one? Tricky stuff.
Just go down to.
Just go down
From the
2.
origin.
Yep. Now, what if I messed you up and wrote 6i minus 2?
Negative 2
plus
plus
two.
6.
Okay, good. So you'd go, so they didn't write this in standard form, you'd wanna fix that. That's the real part and that's the imaginary part, 6i. Okay, everyone's cool with that? All right, now, the next thing you have to do, which we skipped this yesterday, is how do you find the absolute value of an imaginary number? Well, absolute value means, by definition, it's how far that number is from 0 on a number line. So, if you look at this, here is 3 plus 4i. We went over 3 units and up 4, right? So if I want to know this distance from here to here, everyone see this? Here's 3 plus 4i from 0. What you're going to do is think of the Pythagorean theorem and draw a right triangle. This leg is 3 units long and this leg is 4 units long. So how would you find how far this is from 0? If you use, you guys remember the Pythagorean theorem? The Pythagorean theorem says, it says a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So if we take 3 units and square it, and we add 4 units squared, you get how far that imaginary number is, 3 plus 4i, from 0. Here's 0. So this distance right here, yes.
It's Pythagorean triple, so that's 5.
Yes, yes, this one is. This is gonna be 9 plus 16, which is 25, and we know what the square root of 25 is, it's 5. Okay? Now, they're not always gonna work out that nice, so let's practice a couple of these. Here you go. Number 2, example 2. Can you plot this for me first? Where is 1 minus 4i? Where is 1 minus 4i? Over 1 and down 4. Does everyone agree that that is where 1 minus 4i is? Okay, so now, if I wanted to know how absolute value means, how far is that number from 0? I would make a right triangle, okay? And you're gonna find out the hypotenuse. So what are the legs? 1 unit and 4i units. You don't need the negative, you don't need it. And actually, you don't need the I either, just 1 and 4. It's 1 and 4. So how far is this? You're gonna do 1 squared plus 4 squared is equal to c squared. And I already heard it. C squared is 17, and I'm just showing all the work. And you don't need the negative answer because it's a measurement. Yes.
If it's not prime, do you want it broken down? So if it was like square root of 8, would you want like 2?
Yeah, you would do 2
okay.
root 2.
You do factorings.
This one's easy, but some people get confused by it. I thought I'd throw it on there for you. How far is negative 3i from 0? In other words, what's the absolute value of negative 3i?
It's 3.
It's 3 units, because this one you really don't even have to do anything. Here is 0 minus 3i. And how many units? This is straight across, straight or up and down. That's 3 units. So that one, it's 3 units.
So
What's
when
the
it's
absolute value of negative 3i? It's 3.
So when it's on
Did everyone understand that? Okay, cool. Next. Now we're gonna get into solving these. Okay, Nick's gonna answer this question. How do you solve A?
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Oh.
do.
Yeah,
Because
and
there
tell
isn't
me
a
why.
middle term.
There isn't
for
a middle
X.
term.
You're going to subtract.
You're gonna subtract, everybody see these ones? When there's no x to the first power, you're gonna work on getting x squared by itself. So Nick, what would be your first step?
Subtracting that.
Uh-huh,
So, and then divide by 5 to get X squared by itself.
and what do you get? Who can help me with negative 90 over 5?
6, 12. 18.
Negative 18. Okay, good. Now, how do I solve this? Square root. Okay, I agree. What else? How many answers are there? How many answers are there?
2.
So what do I write? Plus or minus. That's number 1, plus or minus. How do you deal with the negative?
It's,
No, now we open the door to
I-
imaginary numbers. Yesterday we changed it. We changed the directions. Now we have imaginary numbers. That's what we did yesterday.
3 square root
We open the door to more numbers. Okay, what do you do now?
2. Break it down.
What do you do with this negative one here? You're gonna have an I, so that's one thing you should know now. Now, what do you do with 18?
2 and 9, down to 3.
Is 2 and 9
So
and
square
3 and
root
3. So what's your answer?
3i squared root
3i square root of 2. Now, there's a little controversy how you would write this answer. Me, I like it like this, but technically this is what your answer should look like to be correct. Because that's the b value and that it goes bi. Remember a plus bi?
Significant.
But the reason why I don't like to put some people put the I underneath the radical and it's wrong. I would take either way. I would take either one. Okay. How about trying another one? This one's got a twist to it. What do you do?
Add
So
5.
there's no middle value,
I heard
so
add 5, yep. Yep, add 5. What else?
Divide by negative 7.
Uh-huh. And then, so what I have here, let's take a rest. Negative 5/7. What do you do next?
Square root. It can be
Square root both sides. Okay, so I've got issue number 1, how many answers are there gonna be? X is equal to plus and minus. That's number 1. How do you deal with the negative? I. That's another issue, and there's one more issue.
No, it's a fraction.
That's over.
Now it's a fraction with a radical in the denominator. This is what you have. So what should I
five
do?
root 7.
Yeah, we are building on what we've learned over the last few days. So your best answer would be plus or minus root 35 over 7, and the I should go in the back. So you're rationalizing, you're simplifying, you're dealing with the I value. You're doing all kinds of things. So now, Sammy, how would you know when to write no solution? You have to read the directions. If the direction says, solve using real numbers, this is not a real number, so you would write no solution. If it said, solve with real, if it said solve using all numbers, all is real and imaginary, that's when you would put this. So you really have to pay attention to the directions. And what am I giving you? Okay, it's all in the directions. Let's try this next one. Example 4. Now, it's asking you for the zeros. In other words, this is giving you a y and an x squared. And an x. So I know it's a quadrat. This is a graph. It's a graph. This is what this is. It could look like that. It could look like this. It could look like this. How do I know it's up though? Why did I draw all 3 of my graphs up?
It's a positive.
Because it's a 1, positive 1. So I don't know if this thing's gonna hit in 2 spots, in 1 spot, or not at all. But I'm gonna find out right now. I don't know what times what is 26 but adds to be 10. So first of all, I have to set my y value equal to 0. And now I'm going to whip out the quadratic formula, or I could complete the square. I don't care. You do what you want. Half of you will complete the square and half of you will use the quadratic formula. If you want my opinion, if you asked me my professional opinion and you said, Miss Audia, which method do you think is the best for this one? I would tell you definitely to complete the square, because this is an even number and you have a 1 there. Completing the square is the easiest of the two, although you guys don't like it. You want to go into the quadratic formula, which is not the easiest. Let's complete the square. You gotta work out these kinks. So, if it's the best method, let's use it. What should you first do? Subtract 26. That's easy, right? Now what? Half of, and what do you get? 25. That's easy. Alexis, when you said half of 10, what'd you get? That's the number that goes in there. Easy. And what's negative 26 plus 25? Yeah, okay, now what? Square root both sides. How many answers did I say you're gonna get? Uh-huh. And what's the square root of negative 1? I. And last thing. Huh?
Subtract 5.
Yep. Now, what this is telling me is that my graph looks like this right here, this floaty one. Because it's not hitting the x-axis. That's what that means. Okay? Now, for those of you that did the quadratic formula, you would have gotten 100. You would have to simplify it. You get negative 10 plus or minus. The answer is going to be a lot more difficult. You have to simplify it. Yeah.
Is there ever like a time where you can't use like a perfect square, you have to use a quadratic formula?
Yeah, I would use the quadratic. If this middle number is odd, I would use the quadratic formula if it's odd. Because when you take half of an odd number, you get a fraction, then you square it, and it just is easier when the middle term's even. Okay, what would you do for this one? I would what?
Complete the square.
Complete the square. Yep. Okay, complete the square. Step 1.
Minus 12.
Minus 12. Then what? Half of 4 is 2 and square it. You're going to add 4 to both sides. Does everybody agree? Okay. Factor x squared plus 4x plus 12 plus 4. X plus 2 squared. And you get negative 8 here. Now what? Square root, square root. How many answers are you going to have? 2. How do you handle that? This was on yesterday's homework.
Break it down to 4 and 2, and then 2 and 2.
Yeah. Can you do it in your head?
2 root 2.
2 root 2
I.
I. The I is the negative 1, and the 8 is 2 root 2. And then you subtract 2. And you're going to get lots of points for getting that answer. Last example. Nick, can you read that sentence for me?
Two complex numbers are equal if and only if the real parts are equal and the complex parts are equal.
What does that mean?
If all the components must be the same.
Yeah, okay, look at this. That's a complex number. Do you remember which is the real part and which is the imaginary part? That's the A part, and that's the BI. Now you look over here on this side. You've got 2 minus 4yi. The 2 is the real part, and that negative 4yi is the imaginary part. So what they're asking you to do is solve for x and y. So what you're going to do is you're going to set A equal to A. Well, what are the two A values? You're going to set 4x equal to 2. How would you solve for x? Divide by 4. And 2/4 is equal to 1/2. So what would x have to be for this complex number to equal to this complex number? X would have to be 1/2, and what do you do with the BI's? You're going to set these two equal to each other. You're going to set BI equal to BI. So 10I equals negative 4YI. When you have two of the same, you can cancel them out. See these two? The i's cancel. Even Steven. Now you have 10 equals negative 4y. Divide by negative 4, and you get negative 5 halves, or negative 2.5. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So for these two complex numbers to equal each other, x has to be a half and y has to be negative 5 halves. It's easy, right? It looked harder than what it was. You set the two a values equal to each other, and you set the two bi's equal to each other, and you solve. Questions? Okay, here's your homework. What you're gonna do is exactly what we just did in our notes. The first 4 problems, you're gonna graph them and find the absolute value. You're gonna do 2 things. Plot them and find the absolute value. Then, questions 33 through 38, what do you notice is missing?
Yeah.
The middle term, you take the square root of both sides. And then 39 through 44, you're gonna have to either use the quadratic or, and then the back is review of what you did yesterday. And then these are like what the last question, you set your a's equal to each other and your bi equal to each other, and then there's a multiple choice question. Questions? Here's your homework. Brett, thank you for video taking.
Where's what? There it is.